In pack 2 we're going to be starting off with constructing the crew compartment, and you have your 3 main wooden frets here. Okay, and the parts that we're going to be needing for the beginning of this stage are parts 2GL, 2J from here, okay, and 2H from here, okay, and that's parts 1 to 3 on the instructions. So carefully remove the parts from the fret, okay, and put the other parts aside. Do not remove all of the parts from the fret because it is quite easy to get them mixed up. So just remove the parts that we're going to need to begin with, okay, by carefully cutting them away from the fret, and then place the frets to the side so that you're left with the 3 main parts that we need. Okay, once you've removed them, get some very fine sandpaper and just clean up the edges where they were joined to the rest of the wooden fret. Okay, once we've done that, we're going to come back and we're going to start by gluing these 3 parts together. Now, once you've got the 3 parts and you've cleaned them up, just test fit them, making sure that you can see which way and the orientation of the parts go as per the instructions. Okay, and once you're happy with that, glue those into position and allow them to dry. Now, once you've glued those into position and before they've dried, just double check to make sure that they're at a right angle, okay, and also everything is sitting nicely to aid in construction later. Okay. Next, carefully remove part 2FL from the fret, and then we'll glue that down into position. Once again, only remove each part as and when needed following the instructions. Okay. Once you've done that, you can then remove and glue into position parts 2EL and then 2DL and then part 2CL. So remove those from the fret, give them a clean up, and then glue those down into position. Now, once you've fitted the pieces of 2EL, 2DL and 2CL, we then need to remove part 2AL from the fret, and then that goes onto the end as shown in the instructions. So test fit that and glue that into position. One thing to notice is that you'll notice down the side that these will stick in a little bit. Okay, once we put part number 2I along, it will pull everything into position and straight everything out. Okay. Now, as you can see, we've constructed up to part 7. So we have fitted part 2I, which gives it strength and also allows for the correct curvature of the other ribs that we've put in. Okay, so next, continue from part 7 all the way through to part 9, where we're going to start putting in the ribs 2K and also the smaller ones, which are 2BL2s from the main fret. Okay, so here you can see that we've removed parts 2K from the smaller fret and part 2BL2, and first we need to fit part 2K onto the main fret and the main assembly, and as you can see got the main rib that runs down here, okay, the larger slots, and with the curvature curving most to the front of 2K. Test fit that into position like so, and once you're happy that that's in position, apply some adhesive, okay, and then once we've done that, we're going to be fitting part 2BL2. Next, as you can see, we fitted part 2BL2, which is just here. Double check to make sure you've got it around the right way, and to do that, if you look down, you should see that all of these cutouts line up, okay? If they don't, then turn it around the other way until they do, but they should all line up together, ready for the stringers. Okay, so once you're happy, glue that down into position. Next, remove part 2BL from the fret and part 20. Okay, and with part 2BL, just test that in position, as you can see there. Remove that again, okay, and that, as you can see, goes into position there. And then with part 20 or 20, however you want to look at it, place that into position like so. If need be, get some tweezers just to test fit, making sure that you've got the orientation correct. If not, turn it around, because it is important that everything goes in the correct position. And once you're happy that all fits nicely, a little bit of playing around, once you're happy with that, you can then glue that down into position. Next, we want to remove part 2CL2 from the fret, noticing the position of where that goes, okay, and just test fit, making sure that that's in the right position, as you can see there. And then once you're happy with that, glue that down into position, okay. Now in parts 13, we're going to be starting onto the right side of the compartment, and for those we're going to need part 2GR from the fret, 2J and 2H. Once again, test fit the parts, okay, and once you're happy with the positioning and the way that they fit, glue them into the position as we did on the previous side, making sure, okay, making sure that the parts are at 90 degrees, etc., so that they're all sitting nice and true, okay. Once you've done that, start adding the mainframe ribs parts 2FR, 2ER, 2DR and 2CR, and once we've done that, we'll come back and we'll start adding some more parts. So as you can see, we've fitted part 2FR into position, and next we're going to be fitting parts 2ER and parts 2DR as per the instructions. As you can see, we've now got parts 2ER and parts 2DR fitted, and next we'll take part 2CR and fit that into position. Next, take parts 2CR2, And once again, as before, just double check and then test fit. And as you can see, as per the instructions on part 16, we need to glue that into position so that that sits on 2CR like so. Okay, and then once we've done that, we want to take part 2M, and 2M will slot into position like so. So test fit that. Okay, so that it slides in there, and once that's in there and you're happy with the way that that is seating, then once again glue that down into position. Next, we want to be taking part 2L. So once again, remove it from the thread, give the edges a clean up, okay, and then test fit it into position. And once you're happy with how that fits, then glue that down into position. Okay. Take part 2BR, remove it from the fret, give it a bit of a clean up. Okay, test fit it on the assembly. And once you're happy with that, then glue that down into position. Just once again double check, making sure that all of these line up ready for the stringers. Okay, next take part 2AR. Once again, that fits on the ends. Make sure that you're happy that that fits and it's lining up nicely. Once you've done that, glue those down into position. Okay. Next, on part 19, we want to remove part 2I from the fret and glue that into position, as you can see here. Okay. Next, remove part 2K and test fit part 2K along the length of the assembly, gently making sure that everything sits down into position. And once you're happy that that's fitted in, a bit of playing around, then glue that down into position. Next, take your 2mm dowel and cut 4 3mm long pieces. Okay, and just double check to make sure that they fit in the nut holes nicely. Okay, and then before we put that together, we need to just test the two halves like so. Any edges that need cleaning up, we need to clean up, because these are going to be glued and clamped together at some point. Okay, and then once we've done that, we then need to add the 4 pieces of dowel to the 4 small locating holes here. On the other side, we're going to need to put the 2 earth magnets, which go here and here. So make sure that they're on opposite poles to the ones that you put on your fuselage section, so that it holds the fuselage together with the magnets rather than trying to repel them. Alright, so just double check before you're putting the magnets on which way that they go on. Now once you've done that and you've added the 4 bamboo locating pins and the 2 magnets, Next, you need to spray it the same airframe green as we did for the cockpit. Okay. Now, before we add the stringers in part 21, we're going to be painting the airframe green. Just makes it a little bit easier to get the paint, okay, if you're using a brush and airbrushing before the stringers go on, okay. But just make sure that you keep as much of the paint away from the edge as possible, okay, for adding the stringers. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and add the stringers now, but we're going to be painting the airframe the same colour as we did the cockpit first. Now, once you've given that a coat of the interior green, as we've done with in the previous stage with the cockpit area, okay, we can then start running the stringers exactly the same as we did before with the cockpit area by gently placing the stringers into the recesses, okay, and then gluing those down into position. Okay, once they're glued down into position, you can then just get your little side cutters and snip as close to the edge as possible, okay, so that once you've carried on and you've done that, you then end up with one of the halves of the fuselage like so. Okay, so carry on and do that, and then we'll return in the second part of this pack, starting from stage number 25, where we're going to be adding more interior detail and the radio controls ends, the radio's controls on the insides and the seating area. Okay.